Space Marine 2 is getting a brand new batch of cosmetic DLC in 2026, and immediately something a pinch unusual leaps out at you, as we are given visual examples of a pale blood angel, a black space wolf, and a pretty normal looking black Templar. Of course, the Space Wolves, that famous African chapter, known well for their deep, dark Scandinavian complexion. And that's not all. The Space Wolves will be given further immersive elements, as the battle cry "For the Emperor" will be replaced with the far more lore-accurate "For the Allfather." Ah yes, I tell you now, our Viking ancestors would be proud of this turn of events. Truly they would. And I want to talk about this. Primarily, honestly, because I know this will make a very specific group of people very, very angry, without ever truly being able to verbalize why they're so upset, that I am pointing out that this is a political a political decision made from the handful of leeches and roaches within the games industry that still support wokeism and DEI in general. Those terrible, spineless little parasitic creatures that have so long worked hard and eager to destroy everything they touch. Pretty much. As I made a nice little facetious post about this, don't read anything into this choice by GW or anything. It was a complete accident that the Space Vikings from a frozen snowball in space would have the complexion of a sub-Saharan African. Absolutely nothing to see here whatsoever. Complete coinky dinky winky. Oh yeah. Now, here's the thing. We know why this is done. This isn't 2014 anymore. We can't be gaslit by any, it just happened to be things. And as the thing as well, to make it very clear, I am not at all in opposition to the DLC in and of itself. Space Marine 2 is a game with competitive multiplayer where you play Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines, and you can customize them to be any chapter you want whatsoever. You should absolutely be able to pick the skin color of your Space Marine, as there are black Space Marines. Indeed, there are entire chapters of black Space Marines which they just so happened to not choose for this lineup. Instead, they selected specifically the chapter that is famous for being inspired by Scandinavian pale-skinned Vikings. Whereas they could have picked the Celestial Lions, which would have been a great fan favorite choice and a wonderful nod to the community as well, to go, listen, we actually do give a shit, we care, we know what you like. As everyone loves the Celestial Lions, in large part for their middle finger to the Inquisition and their beautiful handling of the Orc snipers. Or if, that's a little bit too niche for Games Workshop, as these days GW barely knows half their own lore, you could always have gone for the Salamanders, another fan favourite, even though I will point out for the umpteenth time, the Marines Malevolent are the superior Space Marines to the weak, pathetic sons of Vulcan, who endanger countless lives with their fluffy, pathetic ways every day. The Salamanders are soft, chat, and softness is weakness, and weakness is provocation. Something the Imperium does not need in the 41st millennium, but my entirely correct rant aside, they chose the Space Wolves. And GW has told us why they did it in black and white. We will continue to diversify the cast of characters we portray through miniatures, art and storytelling, so everyone can find representation. Diversity and representation. Good old DEI, spelled out obviously clear-cut as a political message. The left recognized it for what it was and embraced it, declaring loudly and proudly that Warhammer is for everyone except you that we don't like. This isn't a secret. You can't gaslight us on this. Nobody is confused or befuddled by this. Everybody knows that this is politics. And the politics of a very specific group as well. Though, I will admit, at the very least, as usual, there is a sliver in there for the wokers to latch onto. The same as every time they bring up the female space marines from a fan magazine. This is brought up, and I do love this. Fuck off, tourists, says Nate. Do not preach scripture to me, boy. I was there when the word tourist was invented. I was not only merely in the room, I was holding the fucking pen. How about you get some terms of your own at some point? Maybe learn some term that might actually affect us, rather than simply going, oh, you do better than us, we're just going to try and use your verbiage. No. Tourist, you go away. As this little lore blurb, which is pretty old by now, I think it's like, 15 odd years or something? Coming from a proud line of warlords who ruled over southernmost isles of Fenris, Engir Krakendoom is born of a hardy stock indeed. The people of the south, dark of skin and temperament, are export explorers and horsemen. Well, there you go. Dark of skin. Oh, well. We even have art of them from one of the Space Wolves' book. And, dark of skin. I think what you're meaning here is the same as with the Space Wolf, as in black. There was even, I remember just a few years ago, a big outrage amongst the leftists that the grey miniatures didn't look ethnic enough for them. And GW has clearly understood the objective there and responded in turn. But here's the thing. One, I don't accept this as a justification because it doesn't make scientific sense, which we'll get to in a second, but also because two, Games Workshop doesn't read their own lore. GW didn't remember some obscure single paragraph thing virtually never mentioned again and went, oh, that's why. No. Again, it's politics, as this is a company that confuses the Ultramarines with the Night Lords because they're the same fucking color. But what they truly mean when they say dark of skin here, what they mean is this. They mean a deep bronzen tan. We know this because we have people like this. When Scandinavians, etc., when the Europeans go to sea for extended periods, the UV rays bounced off the ocean cause the skin to tan more quickly and severely. That's why the Mediterranean is surrounded by olive-skinned people. It doesn't mean black. And there are several reasons for that as well. One of which is because Fenris is an ice world. And that really is where the discussion simply ends right there. You could go into the technical aspects of the simple fact that black skin would naturally evolve out, especially when surrounded by a large population of probably majoritively pale-skinned people, as natural selection would naturally head towards the paler orientation for protection against, or not protection, but ability to absorb the vitamin D in the cold climate environment, in a place where winter is 3 years long, not to mention the natural selection for things like body hair. One of the reasons why Africans don't have as much body hair as people around the Scandinavias or around the Mediterranean is because body hair is a massive disadvantage in super hot climates, where you would much rather be able to perspire freely to get rid of heat. Meanwhile, body hair, and you probably can't see it on the camera, but we can get relatively hairy up here, is literally intended to trap heat against the skin, whilst also providing at least a little bit of UV ray protection, meaning, yet again, you would not have Africans on Fenris. At the absolute darkest skin complexion, you would end up with something like these, a bronzen deep tan. Not to mention as well that the word darker of skin holds slightly different connotation for a majority population of iceborne savages inspired by Vikings. And there, of course, comes in the final point. The Space Wolves were explicitly and specifically envisioned to be Vikings in space. Scandinavian, pale and fair-skinned Vikings, blonde and red of hair. That is the inspiration behind them. It has always been the inspiration behind them, and any attempt to make them otherwise, again, we know why. You've stated it. And now even that we know that individuals like Tom Mendelsohn were at the company pushing to write articles precisely like this, the political angle simply becomes clearer. This was not done for the sake of going like, oh, it's just a skin color example. It was done specifically to be political and to remove one piece of white. Not even the skin color, but simply a thing designed to appeal specifically to the white Scandinavian audience. That, again, was the entire purpose behind the Space Wolves. In the same way they made Tau suspiciously around the time they entered the Asian market. So, if you are, for some mysterious reason, in doubt as to whether or not this was a quinky dinky winky or an intentional slight, it's the latter. We are long past the period now where we are going to excuse this as simple ignorance, even in a situation where GW don't know their own law. I mean, hey, it's one thing to mistake the 8 for the 13th, numbers, I get it, but somebody suddenly looking at the Space Vikings and thinking, tribal Africans. Of course not. And there was always that element in Space Marine 2 for me where I felt a disturbance in the Force whilst playing it. And at the time I was mostly like, oh no, it's probably just my woke dog that's too overtuned, as that can be a danger, absolutely, but in this case, no, there's no overtuning here. It's working exactly as it's supposed to. And now that I've said my piece on this, let the shitstorm commence. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.